Alright, hello again. This is chapter 6.3. Okay, so we're talking about routers again. In this case, we're going to be talking about the fact that a router is basically a specialized computer. It's a computer just like any other computer that you have, like what you're using, what you watch on here. Just like your tablets are computers and your phones are computers in many ways nowadays. But this one provides a specialized function of giving networking ability, connecting networks together. Layer 3 is a layer 3 device connecting those layer 2 devices together. So, it does things like branch, which is for phone stuff, or subsections of larger networks. Wide area networks, like the whole university or major company complex, and service providers type stuff, where they connect to your network that you have at home, which is what you have at home is a small network, to what your service provider has, which is a very large wide area network. So, regardless of what router we're working with, you're all going to have a CPU, you're all going to have operating system, they're all going to have RAM, ROM, and DRAM in there. We'll talk about that right now. So, CPU and operating system. CPU is like on a router is the same as on a computer. It does all the calculations. It's quite a bit smaller because it does a limited function. It doesn't need all the extra stuff with it, but it does the same thing. See here, see a nice little heat sink sitting on top of that CPU. So this is also where the area where the operating system does its calculations as well. And it requires Cisco's operating system to run. Now, memory works a little bit different than what you were used to on a computer. RAM, where it stores the running configuration, the iOS image. The running iOS, I should say. And we'll start over here. Start configuration file. This is the file that tells you how the iOS is supposed to work. This is where the iOS is, right here, in the flash. The computer, the iOS is on the ROM, over here. In this case, on the flash. What's on the ROM is the post stuff, the power on self-test, and a limited iOS in case this goes bad. So click on here, yeah, ROM. So this is the boot of information, so it does this, checks the hardware in here, and does a limited iOS, which will load the full iOS, full operating system, but will work in case the full operating system doesn't work, so you can install a full one if need be. So this runs. It loads the full operating system. The full operating system goes over here to the NVRAM, which is where your startup configuration file is saved at. Remember, operating system, your Cisco switches and routers have startup configuration files and running configuration files. They're separate. Startup configuration file right here tells the settings to have on the iOS. The computer, this is all in the same thing. And the iOS and the configuration files are combined together. Now over here in the RAM is where we have things that are running. So your tables, routing and ARP tables we'll talk about. We talked about the ARP, but we'll talk about the routing. This is where you're running iOS. This is where the iOS that you're currently running and the configuration file that has the settings for it are there. And where it stores, packets the buffer while it's sending information back and forth. So remember where these things are because it's part of the test. And it's important to remember that they are in different locations than what we're kind of used to. So on the inside here, what do we have? This is for high-speed connections. So WAN over his card. This is what goes out to your network, the WIC or WAN card. This is what goes out to your internet, not your internal stuff. This is your power supply. This is the fan for your system. This is where the RAM is at, or SDRAM. This is known as the RAM. This is where the NVRAM, the non-volatile RAM. This is where your stuff is running configuration and your iOS are running at. This is where on the computer, if you see back here, the VRAM where your start configuration file is stored. This is the CPU, which does all the calculations. This is does encryption stuff. This is offloading processor, advanced AM module. This does extra stuff like encryption off to the side, so it doesn't have to affect these things. Again, it's a very specialized function right there. And that can do it. Again, you have plugs too, like on the back of the PC, you have plugs in the back here. So enhanced high interface WAN cards, so you have more internet stuff here. This is for more storage if you need to have bigger files and stuff on here. This is console port access. So the console plug that you're used to and the USB 1 version now that they're starting to come out with. So for auxiliary stuff, this is a legacy. You won't see this too often. It's phone line. This is for your WAN connections to the outside world. These two green ones are for the outside world. This is where your internet goes. This is an expansion slot for that if you need be, or internal if need be. This right here is USB plugs. So if you need to get additional storage or something else on there. Interfaces. You can put LAN stuff in here or WAN stuff in here depending on what you need. These are management plugs. Again, these are the WAN stuff for the internet world. It might be serial cards, it might be NIC cards, or things, whatever you're used to, whatever you need. And again, sometimes it depends on the router version. This will be outside world or inside world. I mean, these will be faster ones. You'll look at it and you'll be able to tell. Now, console running, again, 3 parts console, it's not broken in 3 parts here. Console connection uses either SSH or Telnet. SSH has encryption, Telnet does not. That's the difference between the two. They both use the console cable, both use Telnet, Terraderm, PuTTY to connect into it. Give this a try. Check these out, whatever you want to do. Alright. Booting. Hold on, let me check real quick. Net 1. Alright. You don't need to do this, but I suggest you give it a shot just to play around a little bit. It's not for grade, but it is to learn. So, this is right here. RAM loads iOS first and all the other related files that you might need for it. You don't need to really know about them too much. And then it loads the running configuration. So the starter configuration loads into the running configuration. This is how it works. This, then that. It comes from a flash, then comes from NV RAM into the RAM. So how it boots up, forms post, bootstrap, which is like the limited installation. Loads the operating system, and then loads configuration files. Loads iOS, make sure everything's working, loads the iOS, and then it loads the iOS again. This can be from a server if you want to. We rarely do that. And this configuration file again comes from NVRAM or the console or TFTP. You'll mostly come from NVRAM. 3-step process. Watch the video. They'll explain it slightly different than me, but I'll help you out. Different ways are always helpful. Show version. This is the version of the iOS software you have installed. You know how we have XP, 7, 8.1, 8, 10 for Windows. Well, this is the same thing. Show the version. So I'll tell you, version 15, blah, blah, mark release. This might be you have certain number of updates, certain types of updates installed. So you have XP Service Pack 3 or Windows XP's Windows 7 Service Pack 2 or Service Pack 1 you're on. Again, they'll show you some of the command stuff in here. Show the version command, and they'll walk you through it in more detail. Watch it. How does it boot? Step by step. Bootstrap. I guess they're going 4-step process. Yay, I did it already for you. Congratulations. Yeah, they told me it's a 3-step process. I guess they would do 4 whenever they feel like it. Yay. I don't have a physical router for you to have to mess with. Sorry. And then we will go over the 4.6 of how to basically configure your switch later on.